Live stream always going. Can anyone hear me? I'm going to assume you're all there, and welcome to Travels with Geordie live from Falls Creek in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm panting because just a moment ago someone mentioned that they were getting their cold beverage. I apologize for not catching the name. What do we got here? Comedy Ash. A cold beverage, so I ran down and I got myself a cold snack, which is my favorite everyday beer, Sleeman's. And yes, of course, I had to get myself some scampi fries. So I'll be enjoying them a little later, perhaps not while I'm talking. But anyway, great to see you all here. I can't see much at all because it's quite bright here. And we're actually in a bit of quite a lot of wind, so I've gone to some trouble to try and limit the amount of wind noise that you will be suffering from. You will be able to see over my shoulder perhaps the beginnings of a mock-up of the helm windshield, which I've just sort of cobbled together with some zip ties. I'll just show you. And in fact, I've even tossed in some of the glass here, and in fact even added a masking tape patch so that it wouldn't be too windy for the microphone for the iPhone that you're all watching me on. Anyway, I am super pleased with the way this is coming together. I won't show you too much just yet because, well, the alignment isn't perfect just yet, but it's going to be, and I'll get around to that in the next little while. So, some of you may be able to see over my shoulder a rather pretty little Woody. He's been here basically the whole time I have, and I've had a chat with him. Very, very nice fellow, and hope to have him aboard in the next little bit. So let me just have a quick look at who's here and say hello to some of all of you. It's coming in hard and fast now. Hot in Florida, yeah. Good evening again to Grendel. We spoke yesterday. Good to see you again. Good dog. Hi, Peter. How are you? Fred. Hi from Holland. How are you? Rich. Hello, all. Brian Wright. Hello from Sacramento, California. Brad says hello. Dave from Louisiana, one of my favorite spots. Oh my gosh. Renegade Show, thank you ever so much for the gift. And speaking of beverages, we do need to gather and do a root beer of the week. Launching your boat tomorrow at 15:30. Well, congratulations. I hope that will be a live stream or something that we can all participate in that. I know you're quite excited about getting back in the water, so that's really, really good. Anyway, it's been a long time since I've had a chance to do a live stream, and this just seemed an opportune time. There's high-speed internet right here in the middle of Vancouver Harbor, and not Vancouver Harbor, Falls Creek, which is part of Vancouver Harbor, and I thought that this might be a really, really good opportunity. I'm here actually. I've been in Vancouver for almost 2 weeks helping out with Lloyd. You all remember Lloyd, who very kindly gifted me the Little Monk poem, and he's transferred to van lifing, and he has outfitted a Sprinter. He did it here in Vancouver all by himself to just a beautiful, beautiful level. And right at the end, I just came over just to tweak a little bit of the wiring and help him with some of the wiring. And so he's off driving around British Columbia, and we're going to meet up again up in Desolation Sound, which is up the coast, and that's generally the summer cruising grounds. And so we were to meet up there in the next couple of days, but it is a bit too windy to take Geordie up the strait right now, Strait of Georgia, so because it's actually a wind warning. Really quite breezy even here in the bay. So let me see if there's any questions I should get to right away, because there's no hot, you know, controversial topics out there. Okay, what do we got? What do we got going on here? Vintage Tin Randy Keller, hi from Manitoba, good to see you. Hey Jerm, a fellow on the TTC, Toronto Transit Minute, the subway in Toronto, asked if I liked Victoria. I had to explain I won my shirt from a guy on YouTube and a boat named Geordie. Well, how about that? Walter Davis, good to see you. Walter, Brent Kennedy, hi from wintry Monday morning in Tasmania. Oh yes, of course, on the wrong side of the equator. Well, this time of year anyway. Ian, hi Peter, good to see you making progress on Geordie again. Believe me, it's really nice to be getting going on it. Hello Phil from Fairbanks. Grendel again, I will be aboard Water Rail from Wednesday for 10 days. Now Grendel, just a minute before I went live, oh my gosh, this is moving really fast all of a sudden. I saw the picture of that boat, absolutely gorgeous. That tugs at my heart. Those are the boats that I absolutely adored when I was a child. What I'm talking about, for those of you who aren't aware of this conversation, boats from the Norfolk Broads in England. There's a particular style, a kind of round, curvy, compact, very, very sweet boats from the Norfolk Broads from the 20s through the 50s kind of era that I grew up just adoring. Anyway, let me see if I can catch up a bit here because we're really moving along. William, hello from Massachusetts. How are you? Sean, Carol. Sean says hello from Monkstown in Ireland. Good to see you again, Sean. I haven't heard from you in a while. Gary, great physics. Sean? Sean says hello from Monkstown in Ireland. Great physics. I don't get it. So, is there great physics in Monkstown? A monk boat? I honestly, I don't get it. I'm gonna have some video of the launch because she's been out in the heart for 2 years and 10 months now. Yes, it's been a long haul. William, going to leave iPad and go on cable to watch. Hopefully that'll be a bigger screen or something like that. You'll notice every time I have to look at the notes, you get to see the top of my head. I apologize for that. I'm sure most YouTubers are able to read the text on their phone or however they're doing it, but I actually have to read it off my iPad because my eyes are so incredibly poor. Let's jump back in here again. Oh my gosh, this is moving relatively quickly. Bikes, boats, bridges, and beyond. Good luck, Renegade Show. That's kind of you. Tim and Pat. Sipping a fake beer, the Sober Carpenter beer. Excellent. I've actually heard of that, and someone has noted it to me. It's very windy. Are you guys okay? Is there wind noise? Is there too much wind in the mics of my phone? Let me know, because we could go below. I'd kind of hate to do it, but it's so nice out here. But anyway, let me know. Are you going to the wood? Says Dave. Are you going to the Wood Boat Show in Port Townsend? Very good question. I certainly don't think I'll be able to go in Geordie. I just can't pull that off. I've been down before. I drove down in the Land Rover. I would love to go down. It really just is a bunch of timing on some guests I'm going to have aboard. My daughters are coming back out to visit and a few other things that might just conflict with that. But I would love to get back down to the show in Port Townsend. No doubt about it. Going to the Vin show. Brian asked Peter, does the epoxy stain the mahogany? No, not at all. Anytime there's epoxy, well, you saw in the episode, if you've seen the show, it just sands right off. So anywhere that the epoxy is on top, I just sand it back off, and as long as it just stays in the seam, it'll pick up the oil very, very well, and that won't be a problem at all. Further back up again, the top of your head is fine. Well, that's good. Dana, how are you from Maine? Good to see you, Dana. Jeff, Foggy Mountain Workshop, hello from West Texas. William again, hello, Peter. Gone down to see Leo yet? Borders are open now. Yes, I have. I have never gone to see Leo. I've talked to him a few times over the years when I helped him out with some drawings with this and that. I've never met him. I would love to go down and see him. I think during the Port Townsend show, he will be the busiest guy there. That's not fair because there's organizers that deserve that title, but he will certainly be in very high demand. So I will find some other time probably to go down and see Leo. Lots of people saying the sound is fine. That's excellent. Very glad to hear that. Do you have a steering wheel on the upper helm? Asked John. No, not yet, but there's going to be one. So let me just give you a little bit of a tour here. If you look around, there's lots of chairs here, so it's a little hard to move stuff around. The center of the helm, if you look over here, there's a mess over there. And that used to have a steering wheel and upper helm on the port side of the boat. But I'm going to shift it to dead center. Basically right in this area, and that's one of the reasons when I rebuild this helm, it's going to move a little bit further forward to give me a little more room in this area. So there's no steering wheel here now. I have the steering wheel and I have all the assembly for it. I have the Morse, I have everything for it, minus building the actual mahogany thing that I'll build for it. And I'm really looking forward to that because being up here is just so delightful when underway. One of the main reasons is because the engine is completely silent from here. Not that it's noisy. Let me scroll back here a little bit here. After spending, the Digital Mermaid asks, after spending a few years watching boat channels, yours included, I got a boat. Well, congratulations. Just recently spent 5 weeks on it. Only made me want to move aboard. Well, you should move aboard. I think it's the best life in the world, actually. it also has some impact on the rest of your life and whether or not that's even feasible. Sound is fine. John, do you have a steering wheel? Yeah, no, not too much noise. Excellent. Sound good. Sounds good. Excellent. So grateful for you all letting me know that the sound is good. Don, hi from New York. Love New York. Renegades Peter, do you want to make the wooden boat show on PT? I am planning on going. Would be happy to let you crash in my spare berth. That's super kind of you. Really, really kind of you. That may be the way I do it. Thank you very much. Bill, also from New York, Long Island. Good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Tim, from the mountains of North Carolina. Very envious of the boat shed. Yes, it is absolutely lovely, no question. My daughter's in North Carolina. Happy Sunday, let's go outdoors. Yes, it is. Hello, Robert, how are you? Dave says, good evening from Wolverhampton, England. Wolverhampton. Yes, I think I nailed it. Walter, I have an American Marine Limited Admiralty 50. There's one near where you are. Mine's on the East Coast. That's quite a boat, 50 feet. I'm missing a bunch of stuff here. Slightly higher windows. Already looks like the slightly higher windows makes more sense. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. In fact, it'll be even slightly higher than this because there's going to be a handrail across the top and there's going to be a handrail across here. That's why this appears to be a bit thin right now, because it's going to be at least another inch of wood on there. And so far, I'm absolutely thrilled with the geometry, the way it's all coming together. And it just to have it new is so nice. I mean, for those of you who watched me take apart that plywood and it just was earth. Oh, it was just horrible. My iPad is doing funny things. Hello, Jay Maudsley, checking in from the UK. That's great. Thank you very much. Grendel, on water rail, the steering cables run along the port side to a quadrant on the rear deck. Very much on the rear deck or under the rear deck? On the rear deck. Interesting. Up on deck. That's very much the way Geordie is. Cables down the port side to a quadrant. Gary, window frames are looking good. Overlooking the zip ties. Well, I thought they were a reasonable solution to sort of get it all together and start to play with the geometry. You can imagine I have to cut bevels on all these edges so that the various windows that meet at different angles will have nice proper bevels and the heights, and there's going to be a lot of little trimming to do, but I wanted to sort of sit with it for a little bit and see how that all felt. What do we got going on here? Leighton, Dave, oh my god. Stoke Road for me, not far away at all. Oh, you're all in the same neighborhood. Hello, Brent. How are you? Bob, how much difference has the new engine improved over the old Perkins? I can't even describe with the English language. Maybe I need Italian for how much I love that motor, even though it's an English motor. The brand new Beta Marine 5660, but it's 56 horsepower plus the new gear are just, it's just like it's almost like having an electric motor in the sense that it just starts instantly. It's silent, it's quiet, it's efficient. I don't worry about it. I maintain it like I do everything in the little book. It's so beautiful and makes me feel so confident that I can go anywhere. Like, in other words, the engine comes out of the equation about what are my concerns. The engine is just going to get me there. It's going to run continuously, efficiently. Coupled with that, the brand new fuel tanks, 2 brand new fuel tanks, which of course I haven't been able to afford to fill yet because of the price of fuel these days, but very happy with those. The fuel management system, for those of you who've been watching for a while, where I'm I'm able to balance the tanks, in other words, return from one tank to the other, and I can do some real-time polishing of the fuel. Some of that has all been really, really nice. I haven't filmed it, but I should. I have a little inspection port, and I have one of those cameras on a wire. I forget what they're called. Anyway, it's a way of inspecting insides of tanks, and the inside of the tanks are still pristine. Well, I would hope so, as they're relatively new. But anyway, they're just, the combination of the entire power system has been just such a delight. I don't even think about it. I just push the button and go. So thank you all that were part and support in general for making that happen. Very, very grateful. What do we got going on here? That wasn't plywood, it was compost. Yes, it was good. Let me just move up just a little bit here. Good channel, enjoyable to watch. Thank you very much. Mimo checking from the Netherlands. Oh, beautiful. I wish I was there. Do you think mixing white oak planking and teak would be a disaster, or would they swell at the same rate? Well, that's an excellent question. To be fair, I don't have the answer. I mean, there are shipwrights who would, and probably, you know, something like the Wooden Boat Forum might be a better answer for that. I remember, all my expertise in wooden boat is this one, and I'm beginning to know a lot about it. I would think that teak and white oak, very similar. For instance, red oak swells a lot, and white oak, because it doesn't soak up water, would be much, much better, more available. I think I'd be more likely to try and look for sapele, which in this part of the world would actually be much cheaper than white oak. Sapele is actually very reasonable. I mean, it's expensive, but white oak is obscenely expensive. But again, it depends where you are, and it might be simpler to get the white oak. Sapele also has the advantage that it's very fine grain. In other words, it has grain direction, but it machines, cuts, and works largely like a solid block of homogeneous material. Cross-cutting it, you know, you can't split it. It doesn't sliver. Anyway, I love this stuff. Anyway, that's the best I can do on that. Jumping back up again here. Your cables are on deck, said Grendel. That's interesting. That's interesting. My favorite part of being on the boat was how much time I spent outside. Yes, and talking to random fellow boaters. Yeah, totally like the appeal of the lifestyle. It really is a fantastic life, no doubt. Bob, hanging on Falls Creek and the occasional northwesterly make for very cool days on the water, but also very refreshing. Well, I could do with some cool days because it's been hot. There we go. Your sound's good enough. Boroscope. That's what it is. Will you have heat on the upper helm to use in cooler weather? No, I don't think so. I also won't be enclosing it as many upper helms are enclosed. I hate to admit it, I have a rather derogatory term for that, which I guess I'll share with you. I call them an oxygen tent. Well, some boats, I mean, they have this huge plastic dome on top of, you know, when you want to be outside and you're inside. But I suppose it's a perfectly nice thing to have. If I had one, I probably wouldn't be so derogatory about it. But no, the upper helm will only be for fine weather. I do have a helm below. Some boats don't have helms below, so they need to be able to make their upstairs helm comfortable for all weather. But I don't imagine having any heat up here. Sounds good enough. Cabin side on Zephyrus, very nice. They actually turned out really well. Can't wait to see them painted. Sounds good enough. Great. Latency, great channel, Peter. Really enjoy. Sorry I cannot stay in the stream. Well, good to see you. Thanks for coming by for a while, Leighton. On swelling and shrinkage, the wood database is amazing for comparing species. I didn't even know about the wood database. There's a Google for right after this. Thank you very much. Eric, hi Peter and all chat. Good to see you, Eric. My iPad is doing funny things. Good access to white oak and a lot of replacing to do. I see, that makes sense. You got some pricing. White oak is $19 a foot by a 1x4x4 at Home Depot in Vancouver, says Roy. That's $19 for a foot by 4 feet. Oh, I see. Well, that is very reasonable. It seems, anyway. Color and contrast. Color and contrast. Do you have plans to use the space in the upper helm during cold weather so it won't be used as much? Color and contrast. Do I know you? I just have to ask you that. But anyway, I'll answer the questions. Do you have plans to use the space of the upper helm during cold weather when it won't be used as much? No, not really. They're really cold weather in British Columbia and cold weather, or at least Victoria, British Columbia, and cold weather in where I plan to cruise isn't very cold. So I'm actually up here just about year round, just about. Anyway, interesting. Yeah, exactly. I've never seen you in the show. So very good to see you here. How are you? Give me a call. Anyway, I'm talking to my daughter. There you go. Today's video was neat. Always seem to pick up a few tips of my own projects. Cheers, good sir. Thank you very much, Eric. Flybridge is meant for nice weather and closed one is silly. Thanks, because I feel the same way. Wow, this is moving pretty quick. Controversial opinion, I like bimini tops. I like bimini tops, but not necessarily the plastic enclosure that makes the windows. Roy, I can order it and ship it out if you like. Thanks so much, Roy, but I probably am doing okay. Hi again. My daughter, I'm not using your name. I don't know if you're sharing your name here. Anyway, evening all. The helm components look excellent. Peter, I'm ambivalent about bimini tops. That might be because I'm used to seeing them on weekend plastic boats in the UK. Right, exactly. You know, so I've gotten enough flack for this top. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, you know, it's this thing and it's starting to look pretty shabby, but it does keep me quite comfortable. I have plans for something significantly more aesthetically appealing, and that I'll share with you pretty soon. There you go. It's Peter's kid. Yes, indeed it is. The family farm has quite a few. Nick, can you say anything about the boat behind your right shoulder? Yes, you may have joined after I mentioned that. I will show it to you again. Very fine fellow. He's been anchored here in the creek next to me for the entire time I've been here, and we've chatted a few times. I'm hoping to have him aboard. Perhaps he would even be interested in joining in for a beer of the week. We'll see. And although I may not be here for that much longer. But anyway, we'll see if we can get him aboard and learn more about it. It's not a monk, but he kind of wonders if maybe the hull is based on a monk, and there's something to be said about that. The boat barn is handy, but it also makes viewing nice also. Keep up the show, and I like the word of the week. Thank you so much, Joe, and another vote for the word of the week. Hi, folks. You've seen me on the channel a few times. Yes. Not here on purpose, just browsing YouTube when I was familiar channel popped up. Bye now. See you later. On bimini tops, general boat stuff, the opinion offers matters as much as you paid for them. I suppose that's great logic. Anyway, people talk to each other, that's a pergola. I guess it is sort of, I don't know what it's going to be called, but it's not going to be a pergola in the future. I'll figure out something. Walter says the channel is very inspirational. Fellow wooden boat owner, you're very welcome. That is Bimina. It's a pergola. Well, I've heard a few people say that. Very true. Okay, I've actually caught up, and what I thought I'd share with you, although I see messages flying by again, is a little bit about what I've got planned for the next little while, and ask you if you have any actual. I mean, you're always asking questions, and it's good discussion, and I enjoy that. But if you have anything particular you'd like to ask, as I said, I'll be cruising up to Desolation Sound with Lloyd for about a week, so that'll be really fun. I'm really looking forward to that. And then Lady Zephyrus is going to come up and join me for about a week. And then if Color and Contrast is still there, and I don't know if my other daughter is out there, but I doubt she is. I'm hoping one or both of them will come out to visit in the late summer, early fall. So I'll be cruising pretty much straight time until October 1st, at which point we'll start to get back to work. And of course, having the shed means we can get all kinds of work done. Some of that will be prioritized on Zephyrus at first. There's quite a bit of work to do on the back of the house cabin, and we'll get that done. And then we'll be moving Poem into that shed. Poem is currently in her own shed. Just a quick update for those of you quickly that may not know what Poem is. Poem is yet another monk that was gifted to me recently by the aforementioned Lloyd. It's a little pre-war 28-footer. It's absolutely adorable. I love it, but it needs a lot of work. So it'll be going to the shed over the winter, and I'll be going up and using the shed to work on Poem over the winter and try to move that along as quickly as possible. And I've made arrangements with the marina I'm at in Victoria that I can swap Poem and Geordie intermittently as much as I want through the winter, which is great. So as soon as Poem is far enough along that she could take the weather, in other words, not leak too much, I'll swap them and I'll live on Poem in Victoria while Geordie goes into the shed for the balance of the winter, and we get a horrible job done. And that horrible job is the fiberglass cabin tops and decks, which is one of the biggest remaining jobs to do on Geordie, and I'm really not looking forward to it, but got to be done. All right, let me see if I can catch up with what's going on here. Of course, my iPad has decided to shut off. Where are we here? There we go. Scrolling back quite a ways. I may have missed some stuff, but there I hopefully it won't be too critical. Comedy Dash, would it be cool to see a tour of his boat if possible? I'll ask him if he'd be interested in that. He's aware of the show, so perhaps he'd be interested to see that. I've had a little tour of it. It's really, really nice. Jeffrey, I think you've already opined, but you're counting votes. Bring back word of the week. Just my humble opinion. I'm hearing more and more of that. Brian, here's another vote for word of the week. The English word could be an arbor. Oh yes, an arbor. Could be an arbor. Can you have an arbor without gardens? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, pergola just makes me think of one of our TV shows here, Garden Rescue. Obsessed with these things. Okay, the pergola thing has got to go. If I hadn't put those little cutouts on the, I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, Walter, got to go. Thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. Bikes, boats, bridges, and beyond. How long until you think you have a haul out? Geordie again. Geordie will be hauled out this coming spring. Hopefully earlier in the spring than I did last year, and hopefully not for as long. The massive amount of work I did in the center of the boat, under the wheelhouse, is 70 or 80% of all the work that needed to be done to the bottom. So I'll do similar refastening and some new plastic frames in the forecastle and in the aft cabin, but it won't be anything like the heroism of the heroic nature of what's going on. Peter Nisbet, thank you very much for the gift. Hi Peter, great watching your adventures this summer. Any plans on international travel this winter? I have a wee drink on us. Kind regards, Peter. Mary, from St. Ab, Scotland. It's funny that you say that. Scotland is actually my very next international travel fantasy, dream, whatever. Would love to do a Scotch tour. And I keep imagining when the world opened up after COVID, that's what I was going to do. It's not really in my financial bracket right now, but I think probably before too long, Scotland will be on the list. So that's very, very kind of you for the gift, and very kind to remind me that that's where I'd love to go. Another +1 for word of the week. T-shirt should be your choice. Yes, of course. Jeffrey, also love the overhead cover design there. Lattice bimini or whatever you call it. Please keep those. It makes the boat distinctive and looks very nice. I actually think it's not so bad. And the aft one, for those of you who don't know, I've actually accidentally left it up. But if you haven't seen this, come on. That actually works really, really well. And some version of that will always be on this boat, because also having cover over the cockpit is just essential. I mean, I live in a northern climate. I mean, British Columbia, there are hot places in the world, but you can't sit out in the sun here. You'd die. So I'm very grateful to have that. And then in the rainy season, which is a big part of living in British Columbia, it's so nice to have shelter over your, what you'd call, porch. The aft cockpit on a monk on a boat like this is effectively a porch. So it's so nice to have rain shelter there. Anyway, carry on with what's going on here. I've managed to hang my iPad. Pretty typical. Here we go. Wow. You'll have to. Okay, here we go. Dana, it's obvious when you visit Lady Zephyrus, there is something between you guys. Is there any truth in the rumor about a marriage? No, no, not at all. We get along really, really well, but we are only friends, and very, very, very good friends. I mean, we're the best of friends, and I'm very grateful to have her in my life. But no, there's I didn't even know there was a rumor. Disney Mermaid, your channel is going to turn into a monk preservation society. Well, I should say, you know, there are lots of people doing really good work to monks, far and beyond what I'm able to do for it. Maybe I'm a little more public than some. I'm grateful when people say stuff like that, but I'd like to also point out that there are fantastic boatyards all over this coast and all over the place, doing fantastic work to help all these old boats. And if I can be part of encouraging that or creating more energy around that, then that makes me very happy. I had always imagined I would sort of tour the various boatyards, and I hope to still, and show off some of the great work that they're all doing. But that's a very kind thing to say. The English word would be an arbor. Oh, I'm way off track here. There we go. Good dog, what's your bottom growth like after a summer cruising season? Well, actually, I have to admit, it's quite overgrown. It's not now because I actually paid a diver to clean it, but quite heavy growth over the last winter. And but I used very cheap paint. I used a cheap ablative paint because I knew I was going to be stripping most of the paint off the bottom at least one more time in most of it to do all the remaining work to the bottom of the boat, refastening and stuff like that. So I was waiting to use a premium paint, and I don't know if I mean, if I mentioned it before, the paint we put on the bottom of Zephyrus and, excuse me, also on Poem is a hybrid. It's a semi-hard. It's an ablative, but it's quite hard. Certainly, it's not chalky when you touch it. And it's called Micron CSC, and it's brilliant. The bottom of both of those boats is just pure black, like clean. So I'm definitely moving to that paint sooner than later. I notice a significant effect on boat speed this before I had the bottom of the boat cleaned. So it's definitely had a lot of growth. Okay, let's see if I can figure out where I am here. There we go. I'm going to, here we go. No more word of the week, says Ian. Can't win. I would like to think that those who don't like the word of the week just won't read it. Anyway, we'll be seeing what we do about that. Let me try and catch up where we your channel is going to turn. Okay, here we go. If Poem doesn't already have a dinghy and you have one, you should call it Stanza. Ooh. I like that, Jeffrey. Interesting, very interesting. Okay, it doesn't have a dinghy, and I'm looking for something that's appropriate. It would have to be quite small because it's going to be kept on deck. I mean, on the aft cabin roof, because Poem has the remains and is going to have a mast with a boom, so it'll be quite easy to launch. Richard McCarthy. Hi pal, just watched your last show and it was great, Peter. Thank you very much, Richard. Eric, assume you are talking about the boat good. Oh, okay, yeah. Haiku, another interesting name for a dinghy. Ian says no more word of the week. Okay. Hi Peter, great to see you are doing fine. In an earlier Q&A, you mentioned that you were investigating an ICCP system. Do you still want to implement such a system? ICCP. Are you talking about a electrolysis management system? Anyway, maybe you can answer below. If the answer is that, yes, I am. Thanks for answering all my questions. Those rebuild videos are really interesting to watch. Thank you so much. I may have been cursed, my prejudice about wooden boats being hard to fix. Cured of my prejudice. Well, they're easy to fix. They're actually quite easy to fix. There's just a lot of it. You're pretty busy. Renegade Show, Peter, I'm going to go shmoo and some other help and get back to work. Have a good one. Very good. Thanks for checking in. I know this is the middle of a really nice day for all of you. I'm glad that you came to see it. Jeffrey, love the, I hope you said you love me. Love the flip down, flip up feature. Thought it was just too cool when you added that. Maybe even the weight, a hydraulic system with a flip down. Daughter, it has a hydraulic, well, it's actually pneumatic lift for it, so it actually goes up on its own, which is pretty neat. Just push it up, clunk. But love that you had the idea. Mr. Classic, can you store some of the hoard in the boathouse? Now, when you say hoard, you mean junk? You mean all the stuff I have on this boat that isn't, say, food and clothing? Yes, I can. In fact, I have always tried to live within my means. In other words, store everything I needed on the boat. But then I also have a pickup truck, and the back of the pickup truck basically got full. And then there's a slippery slope where some people, in fact, Lloyd offered me to join him in some onshore storage, and the slippery slope continued. So now I have a bit more stuff than would fit on the boat, at least comfortably. So yes, there are a dozen or more classic blue Tupperware totes in the shed. And that's very, very, very convenient. So that's good. If that's what you mean by the hoard. If you mean more boats, it's one at a time. Let's see where I pick up where we're talking here. Whiskey Tours here in Northern Ireland. and the Republic of Ireland aren't too shabby from what I hear. I definitely think that being adaptive to weather is a skill that you have to learn pretty quick. I'm always impressed. Love Ireland. Ireland was the first place I went out of Canada when I was young. I bicycled quite a lot of Ireland, Shannon, up to Galway and around and over when I was quite young, 11 or so, with my mother. And I absolutely adore Ireland. I would love to go back. Jeffrey, I guess there are a lot of Peter Lady Z shippers. I guess that means people who are suggesting stuff. Yeah, well, there certainly are. I can understand that. Where was Geordie's keel laid? Asked Brian. In Nanaimo, British Columbia in 1953. Well, perhaps the keel was laid in 52. But I don't know. Both Geordie and Zephyrus were built in Nanaimo, which is, for those of you who don't know, a mid-sized city, half or a third of the way up the eastern coast of Vancouver Island, basically an hour and change, an hour and a half north of Victoria, and home of the Nanaimo Bar. Maybe that's what the rest of the world knows about it. But there would have been quite a few boat yards there at that time, and they were both built in different yards, but I think there may have been some shipwrights in common between the two, because it's amazing how there are some very similar techniques in some of the joinery between the two boats. I don't know why every time I let go of this, it has to just make my life miserable. I'm going to try and figure out how far back I am. I think that might mean pressing a refresh, because it is now very, very unhappy with me. Okay, here we go. I realize this isn't the most professional live streaming that you must all be seeing. Floating while they're better than, where are we? Sorry, Dad, I don't watch the channel, says my daughter. Well, come on out and see it in person. Is it difficult to live aboard moorage in Victoria area? Good question. If so, alternative ways of dealing with that. It is very, very difficult to find live aboard moorage in Victoria. Everywhere, just about everywhere, has a long waiting list. Some is years long. Victoria proper has actually very few marinas. Victoria, strangely enough, isn't really a yachting city. The reason is it's at the bottom of a peninsula, and at the top of the peninsula, a 30-minute drive, you're hours closer to the cruising grounds. So most people keep their boats in Sydney, which is it's a very small city just north of Victoria, which is packed full of boats. There are some liveaboards there, but most of those boats are not liveaboards. I would say there are not as many liveaboards in the Victoria and Sydney area as there are other places. I live in Victoria because I'm a city kid. I have to live downtown. It's just in my nature. And that's why I was so keen, and I'm so excited and happy to be able to live right downtown where I do now, for the winter at least, for the 8 months of winter. But you asked about alternatives. You can get on waiting lists. There is Sydney. There are other towns around, Ladysmith, Duncan. Start to ask around. But it is quite difficult to find liveaboard moorage in that neck of the woods. Now here in Vancouver, I don't know anything about it at all. There are a lot of liveaboards here, a lot. Where do I go here? Where's G6? Oh, okay. Attempting a wild weather in Canadian skill for sure. There's a good reason to talk about it all the time. Adapting to wild weather. Oh, you're answering. Got it. That background is great, by the way. It certainly is. It's been fantastic to have the skyline of Vancouver for the last little while. And I should say, I am on anchor here in False Creek, and False Creek has an arrangement where you can anchor for free for up to 2 weeks at a time, a couple of times a year. You just get a free pass, and you anchor here, and there's dinghy docks everywhere. There might be security issues. I don't have the electric trolling motor on the dinghy here. I row ashore and I take my oars with me if I can, and I lock the dinghy to the dock. But on the whole, I think this is a fantastic way to see the city. I don't know of another city in Canada where you can have this privilege. Any plans for diesel in Pome, asks Mark. Okay, that's a really good question, and I knew someone was going to ask it. I've talked a bit about POEM, about whether or not it would get a diesel engine or maybe an electric motor, or it currently, for those of you who don't know, has a gas 6-cylinder car engine in it, which works fine. I have done so much math and figuring out and engineering analysis anyway of trying to electrify, and the idea of electric is a bit daunting. It would work, oh no problem. The motor's no problem. There's beautiful, beautiful motor available, and the batteries are available. They're very, very expensive. By the time you could get about 3 hours range, you'd spent as much money as a small diesel. Although it'd be electric, and which would be really, really cool. So it really depended on what the future use for POEM is. In other words, if I was pretty sure that POEM could, just live in a little village here on the coast and people could take it out for 2 or 3 hour tours at a time, then electric might be very, very suitable. If I have to hedge and POEM has to have a future beyond me, I would think that the future owner would be very disappointed in 3 hours of range. Now, what you're all thinking is hybrid. In other words, an electric motor, a reasonable amount of batteries, and a small gen set, which is what I've sort of purported for years to be sort of the ideal solution. It's a pathway to electric. It's a bit future-proof, but it's very expensive. You're buying a motor, electric motor, some batteries, and a gen set. So I don't know if that's all that viable either, but I've yet to make up my mind on this. I can certainly say that POEM would be very, very happy with a tiny little 35 or even 28 horsepower Beta Marine. Beta Marine, if you're out there and you're listening, I think it would be very, very sweet. And any future user of it, whether it was still in my hands or someone else's, in other words, if I had to sell it, is what I'm saying, it would be much more attractive, I think, with a little diesel in it. But anyway, that's answering your question, and I don't have really any more information on that than that just now, but it's fun to think about. I talked too long and my iPhone rebooted. Floating while, here we go. There we go. Yes, active cathodic protection system. Yes, I am thinking of, I've lost you. There are a number of, or at least there's one major electronic device that has several ports on it, and you can connect wires to various parts of the boat that are vulnerable to electrolysis, corrosion, and wood delignification, which is the big fear. Bronze is nice, but old mahogany or the dead wood in the boat would be very valuable. I am looking at that. I'm going to talk about that in actually a relatively soon upcoming episode. I won't have bought one yet, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit because I think there's such a dark black art and science around electrolysis and corrosion in wooden boats, to bond, not to bond, etc., etc. And I don't claim to be an expert, but I stand pretty firm on the way I think about it. So I'm going to share the way I think about it, and I think a lot of wooden boats could save some grief with some fairly simple approaches. Anyway, enough said on that. Yeah, it's good. Hoard means stuff. Yes, it definitely does. I'm going to have to come up again because I'm losing track here. Curious how much your week is devoted to maintaining POEM, Geordie, and Zephyrus. Well, I have a YouTube show where I have to find content every week. And I don't have a job, not really. I do a little bit of design work, but very, very little. So I basically have a full-time job. I'm either working on one of the 3 boats and then editing and administrative stuff, answering comments, processing, giving away the t-shirts, which I'm a little behind on right now. And I'm way behind on comments, which I'm going to try and catch up. So how much of my life? The show is a full-time job, exceeding probably, regular full-time hours. How much is that on the boats? It really depends on the weather, mostly. In good times of the year, when there's good weather, I'm working straight on the boats. When I'm cruising, obviously I'm not doing too much. The upcoming cruise is going to be a combination of cruising and working on the boat. For instance, I'll cruise a couple of hours, I'll sand and cut a couple of hours, I'll varnish a couple of hours. I still have all the bright work yet to be done on Geordie this year, and I'm right at the edge of being too late, but it's going to be fine. So I hope that answers your question, mostly anyway. What do we have here? Digital Mermaid says, color and contrast to is my daughter. I can see the DIY apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Daughter dinghy build in a series perhaps. Yeah, she is a very, very, very capable. Both my daughters have extraordinary capacities in the DIY or technical areas. Chris Greens from North Wales. A lovely bit of carpentry on that last episode. Methinks should build a boat from scratch. No, I would never do that. I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Because I have two and I look after three, so I don't need another one. I like making things from scratch, but I almost prefer to save something so it isn't lost. I love handmade things, so you know, like for instance, I restored a Land Rover, I fix up an old monk, I fix up old houses. I have made many houses from scratch only because that's how you can earn a living, but I don't think I would ever build a boat from scratch. I really don't think I'd do it. But anyway, I'm not even sure why, but that's the closest I could come to an explanation. Tom asks, any plans to visit your fellow Bay Marine owner in Port Townsend, Leo of Tally Ho? Yes, you may have just joined. I haven't yet visited Leo. I've talked to him a few times and we've talked about getting together, but I haven't. And I don't think in the context of the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival would be an ideal time to do that because I suspect he'll be very, very busy. But hoping to get down there sometime soon. Digital Mime, oh my god, Nanaimo Bar's here, yes. Graham asks, how long are you going to be in False Creek for? Basically until I get a weather window to cruise north. We're currently under a weather watch, high wind weather warning, 20 to 25 knots just around the corner, and that wouldn't be, you know, dreadful for Geordie, but it would be uncomfortable. So I'm going to wait until we get down under 20 knots at least before I go north. So the answer to your question is a couple of days. It is Sunday, of course, live. We're in real time. So the weather on Wednesday looks ideal. I might be able to squeak out Monday or Tuesday. It's hard to say. Nigel, hi from Worcester, England. Well, great context. Thanks so much. Harvey says Grey Poupon. Jeffrey Craig, to ship in this context refers to being fans of an actual or potential relationship. Oh, I see. That is people who hope for some couples get together. People who ship a couple are called shippers. I learned something every day. Thanks so much. Belfast is much the same. I've looked before, but most stuff is based of culture or of the North Bank of Belfast, low, or at least the Belfast area, low. I think I've lost track. Oh, and much the same in terms of a nice place to cruise or stay, which is nice. My daughter asked, besides Victoria, whether cities are the most liveaboard friendly. What cities are not on the west coast of Canada? I'll answer that question because it's in the public domain, but if you want to talk about it at length, give me a call. Victoria is not a very friendly liveaboard city. I mean, it is, but there's a very, very narrow gap. Vancouver, there's a lot more liveaboards here. Many of the marinas here have quite a few liveaboards in them. And I think they're more liveaboard friendly. Some of the smaller towns, Cowichan Bay, Nanaimo, Ladysmith, pretty good liveaboard communities. The problem is the weather. The water never freezes out here. So when we all lived in Nova Scotia, remember the bays froze. So it's hard to keep a boat in the water year round in say Nova Scotia or in Ontario, Quebec. You can put bubblers underneath and bubbles come up and keep the ice from freezing, or big propellers. And there's lots of people that do live aboard, some even right in Toronto. But it's much, much harder. But anyway, if you want to know more about that, give me a call. Give me a call anyway. Free Anchorages. This is Bikes, Boats, Bridges and Beyond. With that view, wow, I know, it's awesome. And to be fair, you're supposed to be here 2 weeks. There's some boats here that have been here quite a lot longer, but they're trying to wean that down. Digital Mermaid, I know it's a random on the internet, but I'm happy to share what I've learned so far if you want to sometime. Excellent. Well, I'm very, very interested to know what you've known about it. Best live show ever, says Brent. Ah, that's really sweet. I hope I'm answering some of the questions that you're interested. It is a magical thing, really, when one person answers a question and hundreds, or I don't know how many people are here. How many are you here? Like 10, 15 people? I can't even guess. Get to hear the answer. Hopefully it's a great way of moving a lot of information in a hurry. Bikes, boats, bridges, and beyond, as I have a small dinghy with an electric outboard. The battery charging time is always a limiting issue. Recharge my battery takes 6 or 8 hours. That's a good point. If you saw this most recent episode, I now have a nice DC-DC charger, so it'd be much simpler for me to just plug it in anytime. So in other words, I'll opportunity charge. I just use a cheap trolling motor and a quite expensive AGM battery from just a car battery. It's not an expensive battery. Well, AGMs are always expensive. And I find as long as I opportunity charge, in other words, I plug it in as often as I'm not going anywhere, it's fine. That battery will take me to the end of the creek and back easily. So I've never had really a limit, as long as it's fully charged, how far I wanted to go. Let's jump back a bit here. Water rail is about the same size as, I'm going to say, Poem, and manages with a 17 horsepower dynamic. Exactly. However, it is a broads boat, where you're not likely to run into big currents and the like. But I believe in small engines, so I think maybe a 28, something in that for Poem would be just fine. Comedy Ash, any more thoughts on Poem's future use? I would love to stay on Poem if you decide to Airbnb her. I haven't finalized anything. What I really realized in a hurry this spring, is that the boat wasn't really suitable to live on or to stay on at all right now. So, much work had to be done, either to Airbnb it or to possibly some form of chartering it. And I use the word charter loosely, because I don't want to start a charter company, so I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure if that's having guests aboard or something is going to happen. I'm also going to try and arrange some work weekends, some opportunities for people to come and visit and help, maybe with varnishing or bottom painting or stuff like that. Work for a couple of hours, go to the pub, that sort of thing. Poem is currently, it's a lovely boat, but it's quite expensive to keep right now. So it has to start earning its keep really quite soon, especially because I'm going to have to invest in it a fair amount to get it to there. So it's a big unknown. I have some opportunities to Airbnb it. I have some opportunities possibly to sort of semi-charter it, and these need to be developed over this winter. But certainly by spring, I will know exactly what we're doing. What about dual drive for Poem? Sweet little beta for distance and electric motor for day cruising. Pretty sure the gearboxes allow for this. Okay, this was asked by Brad Palmer. Apologies to Tally-Ho and Leo. I despise the dual drive setup that at least Beta Marine produces. To me, it's the worst of both worlds. In other words, it's a hybrid. It's a diesel engine and an electric motor, but working exactly the wrong way in my mind. The diesel engine is a regular marine diesel engine, has to be aligned, and it's shaft drive, and the electric motor can't. Anyway, it's a super complex thing, and I'm going to get into it in detail, but dual drive to me would be an electric motor for the drive, some batteries, and a genset, a small dedicated generator that could be anywhere. It could be in a cockpit locker somewhere, which is my version of dual drive. I really believe that the dual drive that Beta Marine, hate to have said it, and other companies like them are producing is really just a way, greenwashing? Did I actually say that? It's a way to offer a product that appeals to a hybrid drive market. Whereas I think they should stick to pure diesel, or they make gensets. They make beautiful diesel gensets. So I think that would be a better thing. And to be fair, it's not actually Beta Marine who make those. They sell brand new engines to a company that makes them on behalf of them, and then they're sold through the Beta Marine channel. That's enough on that. Harvey, the advocates of green, it's called pond scum. Of course. I would never build a boat from scratch. Is that because of Pepto-Bismol? My daughter is asking me about We used to live in Nova Scotia, and there's a beautiful little village called Mahogany, which used to actually host the Wooden Boat Festival, East Coast Wooden Boat Festival. And at that festival, they had a build-a-boat challenge. You had 2 hours or 4 hours or something to build a boat from a bunch of sheets of plywood and a bunch of wood and a bunch of stuff. And I entered it with a friend, and we built a boat quite quickly. A beautiful little sailboat with a rig, dagger board, working rudder. It was fantastic. It ended up being called Pepto-Bismol. I didn't have much to do with that part of it. So, and then the next day you race it. And you race out around a marker and you come back. And we're bombing out around the marker. And just as we round the marker, none of the other boats had actually really made it past the dock. So for the form of entertainment, the race announcer yelled over the loudspeaker, all right, what the heck, whoever gets back first wins. Of course, now I'm much further away than anyone else. So they all turn around, and we tightened up the sheets. We still came in second. Okay, what do we got here? We've got a iPad that is not very helpful. Okay, further up. Okay. My daughter says I'm done hijacking the show. Yeah, go on. Trying to figure out any more cooking with Peter Knowles in upcoming episodes. Yes, I actually imagined I was going to do a lot more cooking shows because I love cooking, and one of the things is I'm currently living on a boat with a camp stove because my beautiful big cook stove is underneath my bed. But when I rebuild the galley, yes, we'll get going on that, and that's going to be called pretty soon. Mike says, Peter, you're starting to look like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Time for trim. Yes, that's very true. In fact, I noticed that this morning. In fact, I even thought of giving it a little trim before I got online with you, but sorry. Here we go. Hello from Coos Bay, Oregon. Yes, how are you? I'm not talking to you anymore, daughter. Teasing me. 240 people watching. That's cool. Everyone hit a like. Yeah, sure. I'd love everyone to hit a like. Tim and Pat, are the anchorages expensive? Well, anchorages here, anchorages are generally free. All anchorages that I know of on this coast are free. All the anchorages, when I say anchorages when I go cruising in the Southern Gulf Islands or up in Desolation Sound, are also free. They're mostly in provincial or national parks. And there are some obligations, though. Many of them you need to stern tie in. In other words, you put an anchor down off the bow, and then there's a ring on shore where you put a stern line to. So they're free, but you are also obliged to use them responsibly so you have a reasonable level of density. So any anchorage I know of around here are free. There are exceptions where there are mooring balls. And if you pick up a mooring ball in various places, there will be a small fee of like $12 or something like that. Jeffrey asks, hey Peter, what kind of dog was Geordie? Geordie was a golden doodle. He was amongst the very first of the golden doodles, and he was a family dog. And I had always had, rescue dogs, but we had a young family with young daughters, and we thought, these golden doodles are supposed to be great. So, and what an amazing dog he was. He's just an absolutely brilliant dog. I know there's enough people out there touting the benefits of golden doodles. I won't get on that bandwagon, but Geordie was a gent. Mark, are you with that nice old boat behind you? No, I'm not cruising with him, but I have run into him and met him, and I'm going to have him aboard for a beverage, and perhaps we'll get him on the show. You never know. I think I was going to say we're pretty much wrapping up. We must be wrapping up. A good dog says got to go, and that's very true. I think probably we're getting to the point where this has gone on long enough. I'm going to run through the last questions, and if anyone has anything specific they want to ask, this is a good time to go ahead with that, and I'll see if I can get through all of that. And Mr. Classen, cruising question, how far north have you cruised? Not very north in the context of this coast. I've gone around the top of the Redonda Islands, which is just beyond Desolation Sound. This summer I hope to get up to what they call the Octopus Islands, which is a little bit further north. But many people cruise to Alaska. which is not actually on my agenda. Only because I'm I'm largely a city kid. So to me, cruising is 2 or 3 days in the wilderness and then a village, hopefully with a pup. That's sort of what I'm thinking. Okay, let me see what else we got going on here. Great show, Peter. Thanks so much. I'm generally not attracted to live shows. You and your follows have been more engaging and informative. Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Red 5 Golf says this guy's a genius. I hope you're talking about me. 50 build future plans for staying in Vancouver or Victoria. If you mean immediate future, I'll be in Vancouver another couple of days and then cruising north and then cruising around until I get back to Victoria on October 1st, where I will spend the next 8 months, minus some mini cruises. And I will probably spend my winters in Victoria for the next 2 years. And then the boat will be far enough along for the big ambitious cruising that I keep talking about, which, as you probably know, means shipping the boat east and America's Great Loop, etc., etc., etc. What do we got here? Peter Nesbitt, bicycle power. You may recall that in past years we had 2 little rally folders that we used to take biking. And we found that actually most places that we go, they're not all that useful. In fact, even here, because they have rental bikes literally at the dinghy dock. So in fact, just this morning, rented those and zinged along to Granville Island to pick up some charcuterie and stuff. So bicycling is great, but I think most places I'll just rent them. Now those teeny tiny little electric scooters that fold up, that might be something in my future. Grendel, a pedalo just stopped and took your picture. Oh, yes. Oh, they come here, massive amounts of them. Dislike button. That's the name of it. I legit just went past his boat in my dinghy 20 minutes ago. Well, hello, Dislike. Sorry, missed you. I'm losing track here of where we are. Anyway, I had said that it was pretty much time to say goodbye, but Digital Mermaid says this back and forth with my device is this back and forth with your daughter is flipping adorable. Well, she is flipping adorable. Diesel electric is a great concept. Locomotors have been doing it for many years. Absolutely. Hi from the Cayman Islands. How are you, Larry? Eric, I finally tried making fish cakes after one of your cooking clips a while back. But were they any good? I'm sure they were. Hello, Joe from Washington State. Phil says, how often is the bilge pump running now? Has the hull been wet for several months? The bilge pump now goes 2 or 3 times a day and pumps out about 2 or 3 cups. So I'm very content with that. Boat could be drier, yes. All that water is coming in the forward garboard plank, which I'm going to replace at the next haul out. So it's very likely, with that replaced, that Geordie will leak drops, which I'm very, very excited about. Eric, use some fresh caught Ontario pike. Better eating fish than most, I think. I'm sure. William, do you have an auto helm? I can't scroll. Hopefully not, as you're going to fit one. I am looking to find a cheap way for a dual helm. I do not have an auto helm. I do not plan on an auto helm that I know of. However, wait till I spend 2 days crossing Lake Superior and wish I had one. I have chain to cable to quadrant steering. An auto helm is a bit complex for this. A dual helm is easy for me because it's set up for that. If you don't have an objection to hydraulic steering, which I do, that's certainly the easiest thing to do. By far, multiple helms are easy. Auto helm is easy. Certainly the easiest setup. I've gone on at nauseum about how I don't like hydraulic helms. Richard, thanks, Peter. Keep up the good work. Eric, thanks for the stream. Appreciate that. Peter, again, looking forward to catching up on the new galley going in. Me too. Brian, thanks for this, for the time. Noah, how many kids do you have, and have you or your wife split up or divorced? Quick background on that. You can jump way back to a little bit about, I don't know how far that is. I have 2 daughters, both adults, both incredible. And yes, I am no longer married to their mother, who is also incredible. We're very amicable, and I think she's the most wonderful person. So we're still a great unit of people. Just we live in 4 different cities, which is kind of tough sometimes. Do you have an MMSI number for the boat? I don't yet. I am trying to figure out which radio and which system I'm going to get to start doing that, but that will be coming relatively soon. And will I publish the number so you can find me? Well, all you have to do is look me up. I'm sure I'll be available. Thank you for all the honest answers, says Brad. Sorry to put you on the spot. No problem about that. Chris asks, apologies for the boat from scratch idea. Don't apologize. I think it's an amazing idea. It's just not something I would do. It's funny that I'm so adamant about that. It takes a lot of time, and you need a shed. What I really love is living on the thing I'm fixing up. I loved living in my house when I was fixing it up. I can tell you, my ex-wife didn't. I like this type of work. Building an entire boat from scratch and living, say, on land or on a boat nearby or whatever, it just doesn't appeal to me. But anyway, don't apologize. Thanks for the stream, says Jeffrey. Thank you very much. 12 hours from now, I will still be awake, says Harvey. It's great that you check in, Harvey. Appreciate it. Peter, full of great answers today. Well, that I appreciate. Okay, this I have caught up as it is. I will keep my eye on this, but now I think it's probably time to say goodbye. I will reply in text or writing or whatever to any remaining questions that come in if there's something key you want to know. But it just seems that we probably are keeping you all from something much more outside than this, although I'm outside. All right, goodbye, and we'll keep up to date with what we're up to. Thanks so much for joining in, and thanks so much for enjoying the show. Cheers to you all.